Okay, here we are with an 11-course lute, a baroque lute. Baroque lute started off as 11 course and then developed into 13, sometimes 14 courses. And the tunings were radically different. They had something like, I can't remember, it's 40 tunings in 30 years or 30 tunings in 40 years, but they went through a lot of experimenting with tunings. And this one's a D minor tuning, a D minor chord with stepped basses, go down a scale. Now they would change, if you're in a key of G, you'd make that F and F sharp, so you could change the bass notes to the key that you're in. And some of the music's in A major, so they'd be having G sharp, F sharp, C sharp in these bass strings. But D minor modal stuff, they might just have it as C major basses. So this is C, D, E, F, G, A. And from then on, we're into the chord. One of the problems is stopping the bass notes ringing on, but I've got a 13-string guitar, I'll show you later, where it's a real problem. But here, when you use gut strings, it's not so bad. They're not over-ringing too much, and the sustain is very little, so you don't have to stop every note. Occasionally you feel you need to, and you just, you can lean back and stop it. Of course, if you're going downhill, you do rest strokes, you stop the note you've previously played. So that's the technique with that. Now there's one manuscript in Scotland for the 11 course, it's the Balcarres. Glasgow University brought out a facsimile, but it was so badly printed I find it almost impossible to read at times. So I go over stuff in pen. I'm rewriting the manuscript as I go. I also have a PDF of it, which is really badly scanned, so it's hard to read. So it's a bit of a struggle. On Soundcloud, I've recorded over 100 pieces from this manuscript. So if you want to go Soundcloud, I've got about 6 hours of music there for free. You can listen to a lot of Scottish lute music and guitar music and other stuff. Anyway, this is a piece called Amarillis by Mr. Beck. Now, as we musicians, especially living in Edinburgh, should thank Mr. Beck. Send him our thanks, belated, because he took on the council about putting on concerts. The council in Edinburgh, as in most cities and towns, had a master of the revels who had to approve every performance. And the guy who had, during Beck's time, was a dancing master, and he liked to put on his own concerts, not other people's concerts. So this went to court. And it took a few years, but Beck and his team won the court case. So from 1694, I think it was, onwards, we were allowed to put on concerts without asking permission from the council. So Beck's your man, and he was a lute player. Round about the Cowgate area, Edinburgh, there's a lot of musical activity there. He would arrange music from fiddlers and pipers and so on. And by arranging, I mean setting it out on, so it works on the lute fretboard, but also adding a bass line. And bass lines in Scottish lute music had been very simple, occasional octave in the bass. It wasn't a moving bass line, but he tried to develop the bass line as bass was developing in music at that time in the rest of Europe. The Baroque era. Now, he didn't commit the sins that the Italians made when they started setting Scottish music by changing the melody. He tried to keep the melody and find a bass line for it. But there are two types of pieces with his name. One is by Mr. Beck and the other is Mr. Beck's Way. because the manuscript wasn't written by him. It was written by a Lady Margaret Campbell, we think. There's some debate about that, in Balcarres house in Fife. But he was an Edinburgh musician, and he used to send her music, and she would copy it out in this manuscript. And so this one is Amarillis by Mr. Beck, so he might well have written it. But there are other pieces that say by Mr. Beck, which we know were written by someone else, sometimes French composer. So we're unsure, but this is a nice piece. We can't trace it to any other composer. But it shows you how different lute music was becoming. And this is only, say, 80 years after the music you've heard previously today. It's a nice piece, very short. There are longer pieces in the manuscript, but I just wanted a short one because I haven't played this lute much, and I was a bit worried about playing it. It wasn't so bad. There's a technique that guitarists might be interested in. When you play say a 4-note chord, you could play it together. But often they would play it thumb, index, index going down, and then middle. And you get this, it would slow it down, but it would be sped up. And French harpsichord players would pick this up as well, and so some of that music you hear for French harpsichord will have weird arpeggios like that. They were picking it up from lute players.
So is it a rest stroke you're doing with it?
Yeah, it's raking to a rest stroke. They also had the cross string mordant. Yeah, it's where you got 2 notes. There you go. You do them with a rake, and then the middle finger plays the upper note again. They didn't have the cross string trill. It's first mentioned by Robert Brenner, published for Instructions for Guitar, Edinburgh, 1758. He gives 3 different ways of doing a trill. He says you can have the upper finger going straight up in the air, and he gives a weak trill, which is suitable for some music. Or you can pull it to the side, that's the second way, it's a bit more aggressive. Or we can do it across strings, and he said he got this from harp players, because when you pull off, the first note is gone when you hear the second note, but if you do it across string, both of them ring on, so you get more of a clash, and he liked that, and so he first to discuss the cross string trill. It's Scottish. There you go. So David Russell. In fact, I had Paul Galbraith doing them before David Russell. So yeah, doubly Scottish. There you go. Now, what else about this instrument? Yeah, that's about it really. I'll go on to another instrument now. I'm going to go on to guitars, because I was teaching on Zoom, and I had about 90 students for guitar and 2 students for lute. So I was seen to most people as a guitar player, I thought, how can I do this music on a classical guitar? And I was trying it on 6 strings, and it felt nippet. It's the word perfectly describes it. It was just, for me anyway, I didn't have the breadth and air around the notes that I was getting from lutes. So that led me to develop a couple of instruments.